Hello again and welcome to Formula One Decade here on Speed Channel. I'm Bob Varsha. Today we bring you the 1993 Italian Grand Prix from Monza. As we've seen in this series of programs, Michael Andretti, the last American to compete in Formula One, struggled with his McLaren Ford. Andretti signed for the '93 season as teammate to young Finnish driver Mika Häkkinen. World champion Ayrton Senna had no McLaren contract at the beginning of the year and was expected to sit out the season. So when Senna arrived at the first Grand Prix ready to race, it was Häkkinen who was told to stand down. But Andretti failed to achieve the results McLaren expected of him, and the team wanted to give his seat to Häkkinen. Reports claimed that Michael's final Grand Prix came only after a personal request from Father Mario, who clinched his '78 world title at Monza. As it turned out, Michael responded with the best drive of his brief Formula One career. Let's relive it now with David Hobbs and Steve Matchett, the 1993 Italian Grand Prix on F1 Decade.
Well, there you see the Grand Prix grid for the Italian Grand Prix in 1993. As usual, a lot of people, huge Tifosi crowd there. The Ferrari flags in full force, as always at Monza, not very far away from the Ferrari factory down at Modena. There's Jean Alesi in the Ferrari, who actually qualified very well for this race in third spot. As you can see, it's a little bit cloudy. There is the starting grid. Prost and Hill in the two Williams on the front row, as practically every race that year. Alesi there, one of the best qualifying for Ferrari. Senna in the McLaren. Michael Schumacher a little bit off the pace in this race, down in fifth, and Gerhard Berger in the second Ferrari. Johnny Herbert in the Lotus. Suzuki in the Mugen Honda. There is Michael Andretti starting in seventh spot. Riccardo Patrese, your man. Derek Warwick.
It would be a good race for Benetton as well, this race, as far as Patrese was concerned.
Karl Wendlinger in the Sauber. Alio there. Kadayama in the Tyrrell Yamaha alongside his teammate De Jesus, also in the Tyrrell. Barrichello in the Jordan. And Alboreto not qualifying last for this race, which was his usual position in 1993. Quite a long way up the grid. Lucas Badoer, who still tests for Ferrari to this day. Pedro Lamy.
You see the mechanics making the final driver fitting adjustments to Damon Hill in the Williams. And there, of course, the great Alain Prost,
who could easily clinch the World Championship for the fourth time for Alain Prost, who'd already said that he was going to retire the following year. Cars laying some rubber down. Overcast day, warm, but not as bright as we have seen in many years for the Italian Grand Prix. Huge gang of mechanics now all rush over. There is the shape of the chicane, completely the opposite way to what it is now. It was a three-cornered chicane, and of course it went left, right, left, right.
There's JJ Leto, yeah, and the Sauber very slow getting away from the grid. The smoke you see there at the top right of the picture is just some fireworks that the Tifosi have been letting off into the stands. You know, regardless of Ferrari's performance, David, the Tifosi were always, and will remain, I think, always so very loyal to the Ferrari team. Didn't matter if they were winning or losing, they'd still be there.
Now this is the Lesmo turns. Two turns, the first and second Lesmo. After this race, they changed significantly the second one. We're looking at the first one now as they come into it from the Varianti della Rosia. This is the run down to the Ascari Varianti, which is another chicane. Here we are at that chicane as the cars take their formation lap. The two Williams on the pole, as there have been practically every race.
Yeah, again, Prost was complaining that the handling of the active suspension on the Williams FW15C in practice wasn't very good, but the mechanics and the engineers have worked on it throughout the weekend and it became much better. Obviously good enough to put the car on pole. It doesn't need to be much better than that as far as qualifying trim's concerned.
This was his 11th pole out of 12 races. He was second in France, and Damon Hill has been off the front row only twice. He was fourth in Brazil and fourth in San Marino, and he was fourth at Monte Carlo. Big field.
You see all the
28 cars.
Tifosi's red Ferrari flags waving there as Jean Alesi brings the F93A Ferrari round the parabolica and prepares to form up onto the grid. And look how wide the track is, just to the top right there. The old bit of the track there, that is the actual old banked part of the track, the original old parabolica, which of course they no longer use. But how wide it makes the track, because at one time, David, of course, there were 2 lanes going down this track at this point. 2 different parts of the racetrack on the same point.
Field taking their position. Not too worried about staying to the right of our picture. Well, a bit dirty coming off the parabolica. 26 cars to take the flag. Watch for Jean Alesi there on the 2nd row in 3rd position.
As the marshal giving the green all clear. Everybody in position. Ready to go racing.
Damon Hill makes a poor start. Jean Alesi goes down the inside. And here comes Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher right behind him. Slight kink into the first chicane. Back then it was a left. Right. Whoa! Senna bounced over the curb, is off. That was Leto and Barrichello. Leto, of course, who was starting right from the back.
Both footworks and both Jordans. Of course, you know, the problem is that you always get that concertina effect, David, going down to that first chicane.
Well, especially with a 26-car field, and it's so slow, and it's such a long run down to it. There's Jean Alesi in 3rd.
Alesi in second position. Yeah. Behind Prost. Michael Schumacher going through in the Benetton, and Patrese.
Damon Hill made a dreadful start, and he's right back in about 8th, 10th position. With the sparks flying in those days. There's Michael Andretti passing Carl Wendlinger. He and Carl Wendlinger had a few incidents that year. Their very first race, they hit each other in the South African Grand Prix.
Oh, no, here's all the aftermath. Both of the footwork, look. The Arrows cars out after that collision coming together, and at the very first chicane.
Look at the lead that Prost has already got. The yellow flag there, of course, for that carnage down at the first chicane.
Well, Ferrari had a pretty miserable year in 1993, and we've said it in previous decade shows. I think they failed to finish something like 50% of the races that the F93A started, but at the moment the Tifosi must be absolutely loving this. Jean Alesi, the passionate Italian driver, French-Italian, in second position.
And Gerhard Berger is up to 4th.
Yeah.
Having qualified in 6th. Michael Schumacher's up to 3rd, having qualified in 5th. Brundle having a terrific run there. Qualified 12th.
This is a replay from Damon Hill's car. Oh! Wow.
On board now with Damon Hill. Now look at it from above. Here you see Senna climbing all over Damon Hill, pushing Damon Hill into the gravel, who obviously lifts off, which lets Michael Schumacher by. Gerhard Berger following. Then as they come up to the second chicane, Damon Hill gathering himself together, goes into the chicane and gets clipped by Gerhard Berger and pushed off the road yet again.
Now look at this angle back up the track. You see there's 2 or 3 incidents completely unrelated to each other. Now already Leto jump starts and really gets into both the Jordans. That's happening at the back of the pack. Here's Ayrton Senna and Damon Hill getting into trouble. Michael Schumacher gets through, and then right in the middle of the pack are the 2 footworks.
Meanwhile, Alain Prost, who's serenely at the front, leads the Italian Grand Prix of '93. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to the 1993 Italian Grand Prix. Alain Prost is leading it very comfortably over Jean Alesi in the first of the Ferraris. But look at this, being challenged by Michael Schumacher as they come up to the Variante Ascari, and Michael Schumacher goes around the outside, holding Alesi over on the inside there as they approach the corner. That was a pretty aggressive overtaking maneuver by Schumacher. So now we have Prost, Schumacher, Alesi, and Berger in the background there in the second of the Ferrari. So Ferrari having a pretty good day.
Well, Alesi wouldn't have liked to have lost that second position, and it wouldn't have gone down well with Tifosi either. However, they weren't to know that just 3 years later, these two guys would be swapping teams, and Michael Schumacher would be driving that Ferrari. Alesi, of course, would take over the Benetton.
Down into the first chicane, completely different to today. Right, left, those horrible sawtooth curbs, big, high curbs. Didn't really want to go over them, but drivers love to use the curb, but they were pretty vicious in those days. Michael Schumacher having pulled out quite a lead on Jean Alesi since he only overtook him just only a half a lap back, and in fact, looks like he's making a bit of ground on the leader, Alain Prost.
Yeah, you can see right there that Schumacher's beginning to pull away from that Ferrari, but I have to say, by this stage of the year, the Benetton's active suspension was working very well. And the team were now beginning to work on a four-wheel steer system. It was never raced, but it was tested. So we were very confident. We knew how this active car worked. Conversely, Ferrari were just struggling really from race to race.
Yeah, their active suspension was not working that well that year.
No, it wasn't at all.
No.
But they did have huge amounts of horsepower from that V12, which would help them here, which I think is one reason why both Alesi and Berger are looking reasonably good. Look, they're all running low downforce configurations, of course, which is standard at Monza, but just great power out of the Ferrari.
Here's Johnny Herbert in the Lotus, and right behind him is Damon Hill. Damon Hill, of course, who started in second position on the front row, had a dreadful start, and generally speaking got muscled out, badly mauled at that first chicane, and dropped back to 10th. And here he goes passing Johnny Herbert as they go down into that first turn.
Yeah.
Michael Andretti just going out of the picture, and there's Riccardo Patrese.
Great to see those sparks coming from the tungsten skids underneath the cars just at the start-finish line. Remember, no FIA legality planks on the cars at this stage. So they're all utterly flat bottoms. That was a regulation. There was no step chassis. They were just flat right across the underside to take away any ground effect aerodynamics.
Damon Hill in hot pursuit of Gerhard Berger in the 1993 version of the Italian Grand Prix as they go through the Lesmos. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more from Monza in just a moment. Welcome back to Formula One Decade, the 1993 Italian Grand Prix. Damon Hill started on the front row, dropped to 10th. Now he's pressuring Gerhard Berger in the second of the Ferraris for fourth spot. Coming down to Parabolica, tucks in under the wing. Gerhard Berger's not giving up. No, Damon Hill's not giving up either. Goes to the inside and gets fourth spot away from Gerhard Berger as they go into Parabolica. The Italian crowd, no doubt, a little bit disappointed. That's twice they've seen Ferraris knocked down. Fastest lap there goes to Alain Prost, leading the race pretty comfortably at the moment. Blundell and Senna in a battle for 7th. Brundle, who qualified 12th, jumped up at the start there, had a good run. Ayrton Senna got tangled up with Damon Hill and went off the road. Luckily, didn't do any damage to the car. Damon Hill now does the fastest lap as he is closing in on Jean Alesi.
And Senna was very lucky indeed to get away without any suspension damage. The way he went over the back of Hill's car. Nowadays, of course, if you think about the carbon suspension that contemporary cars are built with, I'm sure that would have put Ayrton Senna right out of the race. Well, talking of which, Ayrton Senna is right out of the race.
On board, this is his battle with Martin Brundle. There you see those sparks down to the Della Rosia chicane. Whoa! Oh! What?
Brakes, brakes, brakes.
How very odd. Do you think Martin? I don't think Martin Brundle short braked him. I think he just underestimated. Oh, and of course that's jiggered old Martin Brundle as well.
And further up is Jean Alesi and Damon Hill battling for third position.
Into the Parabolica again. Damon's car looking very quick through there.
Yeah.
Of course, the Renault engine had a lot of horsepower as well. Maybe not quite as much as the Ferrari V12, but obviously, as you see him being towed down the straight there, not bad at all. Right under the wing, pulls out, feints to the one side, goes.
That's the way to do it.
And Jean Alesi gave him room there. Jean Alesi did not shut the door when it was too late. Gave him room.
He made that little move to the right, jinked to the right as we were going down the straight, but he was fair about it. Nice move. Let's have another look. This is on board with Jean Alesi.
Who just, you see him just a little bit to the right there, can see him coming, knows it's too late.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Alain Prost in the other Williams FW15C. Race leader way out in front now.
A huge lead for Alain Prost over Michael Schumacher, who's currently running second. Through the Lesmos. Very different now. All that grass has been replaced with gravel. A lot more of it, a lot more runoff area. There is Michael Schumacher running in second. Third now is Damon Hill, who's just disposed of Berger and then Alesi. In front of Michael Schumacher is Michael Andretti, who on the second lap spun from his qualifying position and dropped right back to 20th spot. And he is climbing through the field, but of course he's got a long way to go yet.
And poor old Andretti, a lap down, had to pit early and get his radiators cleaned out. Cooling so important to circuits like, oh, here, and that's old Johnny Herbert in the Lotus as well. The entire left and rear side of the car ripped off.
And he was up to 6th spot. That's at the Parabolica. That's a very fast corner to go off on. Not as much runoff area there then as there is now.
Jean Alesi. See how that Ferrari just really, it doesn't look smooth, David, to me, does it? You know, they were struggling with this setup all year long. It's a little bit pointed, start to oversteer, corrected to go into understeer again. But its saving grace is its power, is the sheer brute horsepower of the thing. This is a replay of Johnny Herbert in the Lotus going off at the Parabolica.
Boy, I tell you what, those tyre barriers, since he invented those tyre barriers, been a huge blessing for the drivers.
Gerhard Berger into the pits.
So as Gerhard Berger stops for a pit stop, it looks like a pretty leisurely stop at the moment. Must be something wrong. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back with more from Monza in a moment. Italian Grand Prix of 1993. Alain Prost leads, Michael Schumacher is second. Damon Hill is third, having started on the front row.
Well, we've just been talking about the active suspension problems and the setup problems that Ferrari have had, and Gerhard Berger's retirement from the Italian Grand Prix at Monza in 1993, active suspension.
There you see the gap from Alain Prost back to Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher working to stay ahead of Damon Hill. They see Damon Hill coming into some lap traffic now. A lot of traffic, of course. 26 starters. There goes Damon Hill. That's Eric Comas he's lapping.
Just saw a shot of Michael Andretti going past Pedro Lamy as well. Whoa!
That is Mark Blundell. Woo! Coming out of the Parabolica. He got away with it better than his countryman, Johnny Herbert did, who slammed right into the tyre barrier there, but Blundell's day is done. Blundell has already been knocked out by Ayrton Senna earlier on.
Now let's have another look at this. You know, it's just clips the edge of the Armco. Whew. The left rear suspension just shot to pieces, but it's so easy to go off there. And that is Michael Schumacher's Benetton, the B193. Inset there of Alesi in the pit stop. There is Michael Schumacher climbing out of the car.
Wow,
engine failure this time. Engine failure. The Ford HB Series 8 engine. Let's have another look, see if we see that suddenly explode. There it is.
See the smoke.
Ooh, dropping all that oil over the racing line as well.
Fluid coming out. Yeah, that's the curve of Grandi. He gets offline pretty much straight away. So Michael Schumacher, who's having a good run. God, look at him there. Just a lad.
Just a wee lad.
Just a wee lad.
The McLaren mechanics in the front of the shop, but the pit stop is the Williams guys. Prost in P1. Remember, no fuel, only tyres. 874, and out he goes.
And of course, no pit lane speed limit in those days. Still retains the lead as he comes out of the pits down to the chicane. And there is Damon Hill, who is now back up to second, having started in second position. Had a dreadful first corner, got himself shuffled back to 10th, but he's now worked his way up to the field and is lying second.
So Lacey's now third by virtue of coming into the pits, which let Damon Hill through into that second spot. But nevertheless, at the moment, a good day for Jean Alesi and Ferrari. It's not a good day for Berger, out with active suspension, but Ferrari still running and still on a podium spot at the moment with Jean Alesi, and the Tifosi still having a great day as a result of that.
And here you see the two Williams. Obviously Damon Hill has not stopped, but he will be about to stop as they come into the Variante Ascari. Alan Prost's car on new tyres. Damon Hill on some older ones. Coming up to lap the car, the number 4 car of Andrea de Cesaris in the Tyrrell.
Very hot day, David, that day, wasn't it? You see the heat haze rising off the tarmac from that long shot.
At the start of the race, the sun wasn't shining like it is now, but it was a hot, as you say, a hot and humid day. There goes Damon Hill pulling into the pits for his stop. They chose the McLaren team.
Yeah, so you just don't see that any longer because the guys have to stay inside the garage to the regulations until the lap that the pit stop is due to take place on. So you just don't see those crowded pit stops any longer.
And look at this. He starts off at the end of the pit lane there. By the time he got to the exit of pit, he's probably doing 120 miles an hour. But he holds on to second spot in spite of the stop. Jean Alesi's in third. That's not Jean Alesi we're looking at, I don't think. Here is Jean
Alesi, the only Ferrari running in the race.
A fair way back for Damon Hill to have stopped, come out, and he's still well in front of Jean Alesi in the sole remaining Ferrari. Down to Curva Grande. So as we watch Jean Alesi go through one of the most famous corners in racing, the Curva Grande at Monza, we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back in just a moment. Stay right here with us on Speed. Welcome back to Formula One decade of the 1993 Italian Grand Prix. Damon Hill just set the fastest lap, lying second behind his teammate Alain Prost. Both have stopped for tyres, fresh rubber. This is the battle for 10th. Badoa leading Fittipaldi and then Minardi. Badoa, who still drives for Ferrari, test drives for Ferrari. Boom! Gets it all wrong there. Fittipaldi sneaks by. No, he doesn't sneak by. Formula One, of course, these tremendous battles go on, even right down here in 10th spot.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, great shots from Fittipaldi to actually see the hand come off the steering wheel, look, and change gear. How quaint.
Yes, very quaint.
Now, of course, all that done by computer and hydraulics. No need for the driver to do anything to change up or down gear. And those great shots of those sparks coming off the tungsten skids underneath the cars.
Jean Alesi in the Ferrari lying third, coming up to lap Carl Wendlinger in the Sauber, and he's having trouble getting by him. Carl Wendlinger not giving any ground. Of course, Carl Wendlinger's teammate JJ Leto was out at corner 1, lap 1. Boo! He's still not getting by.
No, Wendlinger's running in 5th spot, remember.
Now this will be making Jean Alesi pretty mad.
Yeah. Well, he had quite a temper on him, there's no doubt about that.
And look at that, Michael Andretti is up to 7th already, having been as low as 20th.
This is Riccardo Patrese. Remember, Michael Schumacher out with engine failure. Patrese pits from P4. Nice, slick pit work from the Benetton team, even though I say it myself.
I can't imagine who that guy was on the jack at the back, but Riccardo Patrese running in 4th spot, having come up from 10th where he qualified.
Comes out ahead of Wendlinger, Patrese. Yeah, but boy, without those speed limiters, they really do rock it down that.
Boy, Carl Wendlinger still holding off Jean Alesi, locking it up there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, pictures and 1,000 words, as they say.
Yeah. Well, of course, Carl Wendlinger reluctant to lift off at all because, as you said, he's lying 5th. But as Alesi is about to lap him, probably wouldn't have hurt him that much to let him through, which ultimately he does.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you're never going to keep Alesi off forever, so why do it at all?
I know, it's a pathetic syndrome that some drivers have. This is Damon Hill coming up on that battle for 10th between Fittipaldi and Luca Badoer.
You see the brake disc glowing on the front of the Williams chassis there.
Here comes Damon to put a lap on these two guys who are not really concentrating too hard on him. They see that blue flag, which is a move over flag. Obviously, they think it's for them. They probably not aware yet that Damon Hill is behind them.
And I guess, David, you've got to be very careful when you're trying to overtake a pack like this, right? When you're the trailing car.
Well, exactly, because
you've got to get the other cars to know that you're there before you make a move.
Well, like here, Damon Hill getting squeezed to the outside, but that superior power of the Renault engine taking him through. And of course, as they exit the Parabolica, the superior handling on the Williams. Look at that.
Yeah.
Just from going into the corner to coming out, he's pulled that much of a lead on him. Fittipaldi now trying to get past Badoer, who probably lifted off a little bit there while Damon Hill was shuffling his way through them. Side by side go these 10th runners down to the chicane. Badoer still hangs on to 10th spot. We'll be right back with more from the 1993 Italian Grand Prix in just a minute. Welcome back to Formula One decade of the 1993 Italian Grand Prix. There you see Jean Alesi, who's running in 3rd spot. Right behind him is a battle for 4th between Wendlinger, Patrese and Michael Andretti. Michael Andretti goes around Patrese as they go into the Parabolica. What a race this was to prove to be for Michael Andretti. He spun on the first lap, second lap, went back to 20th, and he basically passed at least one person per lap as he climbed his way up through the field. A very disappointing end to his Formula One career. I mean, it was a great end to his Formula One career, but it's disappointing that it was going to end, especially after the showing he put on at Monza. So he dusts off your man, Patrese. There you see him up to 5th, right behind Carl Wendlinger now in 4th spot in the Sauber. And gaining on
Wendlinger. Andretti, Patrese.
There you see Patrese, who's losing ground to the battling duo. Wendlinger, who we saw giving Alesi a fits when Alesi was trying to lap him. There you see Damon Hill, who is now right behind his teammate Alain Prost, having just set another fastest lap. So Damon Hill was really pumped and really putting it on. Having also had a very disappointing start. Started on the front row, got relegated to 10th as a result of a series of shenanigans going through the chicane the first time. Look at this battle for 4th. Michael Andretti right under the wing of Carl Wendlinger, going down to the... Whoa!
Can he make it stick?
Only just.
Can. You saw Wendlinger looking left, right, left in the mirrors, trying to pick up where the McLaren was.
Smoke coming off every tyre as they braked into the Parabolica, but
Andretti dives down the inside and just managed to get it to stick. You see the McLaren was all over the place on the braking, but well done, Michael Andretti managed to keep it all under control and takes that position. This is the battle for the lead between the two William FW15C chassis. Alain Prost still out in front, right behind him, right on his tail. Damon Hill in the sister car.
Now, of course, if Alain Prost wins this race, he's going to clinch the championship. So from his point of view, he very much would like to win it. Although he's obviously in a very strong position to win the championship anyway at this stage. Got 81 points. Senna, who's out of the race, had 53. Damon Hill has 48, so he's pretty much out of it. So, and of course there's another 3 races left yet.
This is a great shot. Just look how the right suspension and the tyre is tracking over the car. Absolutely wonderful, working very well. Stop with us. We'll be right back for more of the Monza Grand Prix.
Only 7 laps to go in the 1993 Italian Grand Prix. Alain Prost leads his teammate Damon Hill, but only just. Damon Hill has set a succession of fastest laps. He's really on a roll. They started like this, first and second at the beginning. Damon Hill had a disastrous first corner, dropped to 10th, but he's worked his way up to the field and is now right behind his teammate. If Alain Prost should win this race, of course, he would clinch the 1993 World Championship. On board with Damon.
Yeah. And again, look how smooth, David, the car is tracking, how the suspension follows the track. And that is the active suspension working just sublimely. I mean, it's absolutely perfect. This really was the best Formula One car I've ever seen. I never worked on it, unfortunately. I was always with Bennett. I never worked with Williams. But looking around the car now in the museum at Grove, the Williams Museum, it is still an absolutely beautiful piece of mechanical engineering.
Now then, only 6 laps to go, and they're coming up on the battle for 7th between Pierluigi Martini and Eric Comas. So they've got traffic to come. Damon Hill has dropped back just a little bit. Here's that battle for 7th. Eric Comas in the LaRousse Lamborghini. At this stage, there was talk that the Lamborghini engine might go in the McLaren the following year.
Yeah.
Although it was generally known as the Euler.
They even put a Lamborghini engine in the back of a McLaren chassis. They took all the livery off it and sprayed the car very neutral white when they went testing with the Lamborghini engine, but the deal never came off. And eventually the engine was pulled out the back of the test chassis and the project was scrapped, but it did happen. They did run it in the back of the car.
Eric Comas getting around Luigi, and here comes Alain Prost to put a lap on them both. Gets around Pierluigi Martini. He's got Eric Comas in front of him. Damon Hill hanging behind them both.
Martini again looking left and right, trying to pick up where Damon Hill is. Because he wants to get out of the way, but he doesn't know whether to go left or right. He's got to find out where the driver is for a start.
Damon Hill would move into 2nd spot in the championship if they finish like this right now, because Ayrton Senna is out of the race, having run into the back of Martin Brundle and putting him out of the race as well. Martin Brundle and whoa! Alain Prost engine, 5 laps to go, blows up. Right, well, look at the way he's staying on line. Look at it, oil leaving all that oil everywhere. Oh, Alain Prost, you know better than that.
Well, we've just been saying what a sublime piece of mechanical engineering that chassis is, and Kurt Blamo.
Kurt Blamo, indeed. He's still reluctant to pull right off it, even off line going there. Must be. Whew.
On board with Damon Hill. There is the
he sees that
Renault engine going up in smoke. And as you say there, Dave, look at the oil just spraying
on
back.
That camera. Oh, coming to the curve, Grande still stays.
Yeah, just pull off, Alan. Just pull off. That's all you need to do now.
Christian Fittipaldi giving him a bunch of 5s there as he goes by, thinking he's still on his grief.
Well, it stopped smoking.
Well, whatever it is, it doesn't. It stopped smoking. All the oil's on the track.
Yeah.
Oh, so whatever it is, it's. I mean, it's terminal, but it's not terminal as much as the engine is obviously still going to keep him going. Obviously going to try and drive it back to the pits. So Damon Hill now leads the 1993 Italian Grand Prix, and Jean Alesi, with the demise of Alain Prost, is up to 2nd, and Michael Andretti is in 3rd spot, having climbed all the way through the field from 20th. So Alain Prost, very despondent, will not clinch the championship today in Italy. Stands there taking his gloves off. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back with more from Monza in just a minute. So the 1993 Italian Grand Prix has a new 2nd place driver, and that is Jean Alesi in the Ferrari. The crowd, of course, going mad. Behind him, Michael Andretti in 3rd, and the only McLaren left in the race. Senna, having run into the back of Brundle, put himself out. But of course he is a lap down because he had a spin earlier on and had a long stop to clear out the radiator vents, etc., etc.
Well, if the Ferrari keeps going, this is going to be an incredible result for the team, the Tifosi, and Jean Alesi, the driver. There it is, 2 laps to go. Remember, this is Monza. It's the cathedral of Italian motor racing. This is Ferrari's backyard. And an awful season for Ferrari, but at the moment, the passionate French Sicilian Jean Alesi and Ferrari are solid P2. Now, and remember, Pedro Lamy in the other Lotus.
He's out, so that's both Lotus out. That one looks like it's just expired. Poor old Johnny Herbert had a rather more violent end than that.
Of course, all the Tifosi will be thinking, you know, we've just seen one of the Renault engines go up in smoke. Perhaps this guy right here, Damon Hill, could suffer the same fate, and that would sling Jean Alesi to the top of the field. There is a possibility, and all the Ferrari Tifosi are thinking the same now, still a chance for Jean Alesi to win this race.
Well, I'd say it would be a bit of a long shot as Damon Hill comes around.
Final lap. Can Damon Hill do it? We've seen one of the Renault engines go up in smoke, but Damon looking strong. Ferrari in second spot. And you can hear the air horns blasting out and see the flags.
A bit happier going through that chicane complex this time than he was on lap 1, where he got muscled aside first of all by Senna, then by Gerhard Berger. Luckily not sustaining any suspension damage himself. He set a whole series of fastest laps while he was coming back from 10th spot to catch up with his teammate Alain Prost. So Damon Hill's had a grand day here in the Italian Grand Prix of '93, and with only half a lap to go, everything should be A-OK. Smiling there at the bottom of the picture, no wonder he's smiling, about to win the Italian Grand Prix. Jean Alesi lying in second spot in the Ferrari, and third, a lap down, Michael Andretti, who had a spin on lap 2, dropped to 20th, and basically passed at least one person per lap for the rest of the race, pulling himself back up to third.
Yeah, it's looking very good now for Williams and Renault and Damon Hill. Coming into the closing stages of the lap.
Damon had a couple of really bad races in England and Germany where he had some foul luck, but this will be his third win in a row. So establishing himself well and truly in the Williams team. Takes the checkered flag.
There you go.
Damon Hill wins his third race in a row. And of course his teammate Alain Prost does not win the World Championship, although he's almost destined to do so because he's many points ahead still of Damon.
Oh, wow, well that was one of the Minardi's, Christian Fittipaldi. Look at the damage on the car.
But he made it across the line. And here's Jean Alesi, the crowd favourite, going through the Parabolica for the last time. Right behind him, Michael Andretti, although a lap down. Yellow flag out for that deranged car of Fittipaldi in the wheel. So Jean Alesi, second spot, going through that debris. Michael Andretti follows him.
And what happened? Both of the Minardis ran into each other. Let's see if we can get a shot of that.
So there you see second and third in the '93 Italian Grand Prix.
Now, look at this.
Oh, wow. Boy, oh boy.
I can remember standing on the pit wall and clapping and applauding as the cars went by. I was absolutely amazed how Fittipaldi, a complete 360-degree cartwheel in the air.
So, Jean Alesi with the flag there, second spot. We'll be back with more from Monza 1993 in just a minute.
Let's have another look at this. What happens? Pierluigi Martini lifts off as he crosses the line. Christian Fittipaldi just didn't realize what his teammate was doing as he came up to the line and just slammed straight into the back of him.
And there you see the final results. Damon Hill winning. That's the 11th win of the year for Williams. Jean Alesi second in the Ferrari. Michael Andretti, his best run of the year by far, into third. Carl Vending having a nice run in the Sauber. Ricardo Patrese, your man, in fifth. There you see 11th through 20th. Martin Brundle, of course, knocked out by Ayrton Senna. Johnny Herbert crashing. Gerhard Berger pulling into the pits. JJ Leto taking out all those guys behind him at the start, in effect. There you see the driver's points. Alain Prost with a very comfortable lead over Damon Hill. Senna, of course, not scoring any points today, nor did Michael Schumacher. Michael Andretti scoring most of his points in this race.
And the Constructors' Championship, after 13 of the 16 rounds, well, Williams ran, look at it now, 139. They're just railroading their way to victory. Benetton and Ford with 62, McLaren, Ford and 60, so still a possibility of McLaren to overtake Benetton. And further down the field, there's Lotus looking 12th, Sauber with 10th. Further down, Mugen Footwork, Honda. And there is, look at it.
That is
absolutely delighted.
Yeah, Michael Andretti there on the podium. That's the sort of scene he and his father were hoping to see all year. Damon Hill, the victor of the 1993 Italian Grand Prix. And of course, the Ferrari of Jean Alesi second, and the huge crowd will absolutely erupt, no doubt, when he gets his cup.
Now we keep saying how young Michael Schumacher looks when we see him back in '93, but Jean Alesi as well. What a young man he was there too. It catches up with us all, David.
Oh boy.
Listen to the crowd. Yeah.
I just had a bit of a problem at the start with Senna, and ended up going over a few curves, and I really had my work cut out to get through the traffic. And I caught up with Alan, and then I got some information that we were getting into trouble with temperatures, and so I had to ease off a bit. And then his engine blew up and I couldn't see a blooming thing. I tell you, it was absolutely, I was blinded totally by the oil and stuff, and the car started to slide around, and a bit of a hairy moment, but naturally, of course, that was, you know, I was delighted.
Finish on the podium like that, well, of course, you had some luck, but that is a part of my job. But I'm very pleased for all my team.
Didn't look like it was going to happen after I think the second lap when I made a mistake, a spun, and then we had to make a pit stop, and it took a while to get all the grass out of the radiator and everything. So it was a tough race, you know. But we just went back at it and fought hard and hoped for a little bit of attrition and a little bit of luck, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, it was a great fight back. What really happened in that first corner to you?
The first corner, or that wasn't the one. It was in the second chicanes where I had problems, and it was, I think, on the second lap is where I spun. The first corner was a bit of a job getting through there. There was cars going all over, spinning, and lots of gravel all over. But we made it through that. But then I made a mistake later on in the lap. So you know, it was just that moment.
Well, that was a great race for Michael Andretti, and what was to turn out to be his last Formula One appearance.
And there's no doubt it was a great result for Team Ferrari. Look at that, you can see the delight in the crowd. Well done, Jean Alesi, well done, Ferrari. Bad luck for Alain Prost, and terrific luck and result for Damon Hill and Williams.
Well, no matter what you may think of Michael Andretti's Grand Prix adventure, he is the last American we've seen in Formula One for more than 10 years. Future world champion Mika Hakkinen would take over for Andretti in our next race, the Portuguese Grand Prix at Estoril. And astonishingly, Hakkinen would out-qualify the great Ayrton Senna in his first race for McLaren. As for Alain Prost, he would have to wait to clinch his fourth world title. And with Damon Hill winning for the third straight race in Italy, Prost's closest rival was his own teammate. For Steve Matchett and David Hobbs, I'm Bob Varsha. We'll see you next time on Formula One Decade on Speed Channel.